The knock was not loud. It didn't need to be. It was precise, controlled, final. Ariana felt it through the floor before she heard it through the door. Her breath locked in her chest as the second knock followed, slower, heavier. Not rushed, not afraid. Whoever stood outside knew exactly where she was and exactly why they were here. The hallway light slipped through the gap beneath her door, cut by the shadows of several men. Her phone vibrated in her trembling hand. Unknown number. Open the door. Her heart slammed so violently it hurt. The city outside was just waking, distant traffic murmuring like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Everything. She backed away from the door until her calves hit the edge of the bed. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The memory crashed into her all at once. The photo, the wrong contact, the instant read receipt that had turned her blood to ice. Another knock. Calm. Patient. "Ariana?" A man's voice said softly from the other side. "We don't like repeating ourselves." Her knees nearly gave out. With shaking hands, she unlocked the door. It opened just enough for Power to step inside. 6 men filled the narrow corridor of her building in tailored black suits. Not one of them spoke. They didn't need to. At the center stood the man from the news photos, the one people whispered about like a curse. Kang Jun-seok. He was taller than she imagined. Not bulky, controlled. His gaze moved over her with unsettling patience, as if he were memorizing details he intended to own later. In his hand was a phone. He lifted it. On the screen, blurred but unmistakable, was the image she never meant for him. Silence stretched between them, thick and unbearable. "You sent this to me at 2:13 a.m., he said calmly. "Tell me why." Her voice refused to come. His eyes narrowed just slightly, not in anger, but intrigue. "Get dressed," he said. "You're coming with me." Before she could answer, one of the men gently but firmly took her arm, and just like that, her life broke open. If this story already has your heart racing, pause for just 3 seconds and tap like, subscribe, and share. Ariana's life changed in one night. Your support helps stories like hers reach the people who feel them the most. And don't forget to comment what you think will happen next, because it gets much darker from here. 12 hours earlier, Ariana's world was small. Too small. A single-room apartment with cracked tile, one flickering bulb in the kitchen, and a window that looked into another building's wall. The kind of place people passed without ever knowing someone lived there. She worked nights cleaning offices downtown. Quiet, invisible. The kind of job that made people look through her like glass. The kind of life where loneliness became background noise. Men noticed her only in pieces. Her walk, her skin, her silence. Never her name. Never her exhaustion. Never the way she avoided mirrors because she was tired of wondering why being different felt like a punishment. Her phone was her escape. One person on the other side of the screen made her feel chosen, even if only in secret. They had never met. He never sent photos of himself. She never asked. Wanting too much felt dangerous when you already had so little. That night, after another shift of whispered stares and aching feet, she stood in her dim bathroom staring at her own reflection. The mirror was foggy. Her eyes were tired. Her hands shook just a little. She didn't feel bold. She felt lonely. The photo she took wasn't reckless. It wasn't wild. It was a quiet confession wrapped in vulnerability. A silent question sent into the dark. "Do you still see me?" She checked the name, or thought she did. Sent. Delivered. Read. Her breath caught sharply. The contact name refreshed, and everything inside her went cold. It wasn't his name. It was a number she had copied earlier that day from a business card left behind. in one of the offices she cleaned. A forgotten detail. A meaningless mistake. Except it wasn't meaningless. Not now. She deleted the image instantly. Her fingers fumbled. Her chest hurt. She typed apology after apology and erased every one of them in panic. What do you say when shame and danger crash into each other? She turned the phone off, then turned it on, then off again. Sleep never came. By morning, the news was already talking about Kang Jun-seok's expanding control of the docks. His name drifted through the city like smoke. The kind of man whose enemies disappeared quietly. The kind of man people bowed to without knowing why. At sunrise, the knock came. And now she was being led through the lobby of her building between men who didn't look at her like prey. They looked at her like property. The black cars waited outside like shadows with engines. Doors opened in silent coordination. She was guided into the center vehicle without force, without comfort. Kang Jun-seok entered after her. The door closed. Silence swallowed everything. The city blurred past the tinted windows, but Ariana saw none of it. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap to stop them from shaking. "You deleted it?" he said. She swallowed. "Yes. You tried to pretend it never happened." Her voice cracked. "It was a mistake." He studied her face for a long moment, then leaned back slightly. Mistakes cost different prices depending on who receives them. Fear crawled through her veins. "What does mine cost?" A faint smile touched his lips. "We'll see." The car climbed into wealth that didn't look like the city she knew. Gates, guards, elevators that moved without sound. The penthouse doors opened into cold light and quiet power. No chains. No weapons visible. That frightened her more than violence would have. She stood in the center of the vast living space, too small for it, too exposed. Kang dismissed his men with a gesture. They obeyed instantly. Now she was alone with him. He placed his phone on the glass table between them. "You think I came here because of desire?" he asked. She said nothing. "You sent that image at a moment you thought no one important was watching," he continued. "That kind of honesty is rare, dangerous, and valuable." Her breath trembled. "I didn't mean to send it to you." "I know," he said. "That's why it matters." Her confusion deepened. "What do you want from me?" He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, not touching, not yet. 72 hours, he said. "You stay here, you walk in my world, you speak freely, you don't belong to me, but you don't run either. And if I refuse?" He met her gaze without blinking. "Then you return to your life," he said calmly. "And someday, the people who sent you to me by accident will come looking for you on purpose." Her heart dropped. "And if I accept?" A pause. "Then I protect you." The silence that followed felt like a held breath between fate and fear. Ariana understood then. This was no romance. It was a chessboard, and she had just been placed in the center of it. Ariana slept for exactly 9 minutes. That was all her body allowed before panic dragged her back awake. The room she'd been placed in was larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, silk curtains, a bed that looked untouched by time. None of it felt real. None of it felt safe. She sat up sharply, breath uneven, disoriented by the unfamiliar ceiling above her. A soft knock came at the door. Her muscles locked. "It's Mina," a woman's voice said gently. "I brought clothes." Ariana hesitated, then rose slowly and opened the door just enough to see a young Korean woman standing there with a garment bag in her hands and unease in her eyes. "They're his," Mina said quietly. "But they're yours now." The clothes were elegant, too elegant, a fitted black dress, shoes that probably cost more than Ariana's rent for a year. As Mina helped her prepare, neither of them spoke much. But the silence wasn't empty. It was thick with unasked questions. Before leaving, Mina paused. "Whatever you think this is," she said softly, "it's always worse." The doors opened to the private club level beneath the penthouse. Music pulsed through the walls like a second heartbeat. Light shimmered across glass and metal. Men in tailored suits and women wrapped in wealth moved with practiced ease. Kang Jun-seok walked beside Ariana, never touching her, yet everyone knew exactly who she was with. The stares came instantly, some curious, some hostile, some hungry. He guided her to a long table at the center balcony, overlooking the dance floor. A man across from them leaned back and smirked. "Didn't know you collected surprises now, Jun-seok," Kang responded calmly. "Only rare ones." The man's gaze slid over Ariana slowly, deliberately. It felt like her skin tightened under it. She leaned closer to Kang without thinking. The movement was instinct, fear gravitating toward the most dangerous protection in the room. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Drinks arrived. Music swelled. Conversations overlapped. But Ariana felt like she existed under a magnifying glass. Every breath, every glance, every shift of her body was observed. "You're quiet," Kang said near her ear. "I don't belong here." "No one here belongs," he replied. "They simply pretend better." The man across from them laughed suddenly. "What's her name?" Kang didn't answer immediately. The pause was intentional. "Ariana," he finally said. The man nodded slowly. "Pretty name for a dangerous place." Ariana's chest tightened. As the night deepened, Kang never left her side. Not when another man's gaze lingered too long. Not when a woman whispered something sharp in passing. His presence was a wall, unyielding, silent, absolute. And somehow, that was what terrified her most. Later, in a quiet corridor near the restrooms, Ariana finally broke. "You didn't tell me I'd be paraded," she whispered angrily. "You weren't paraded," he said. "You were revealed." "To who?" "To my enemies." Her breath caught. "You used me." His eyes hardened. "I warned you that you're on a board now." Ariana turned away, anger and fear colliding in her chest. She walked blindly down the corridor, needing space, needing air. The walls felt too close, the music too loud, her pulse too fast. She didn't see the man step from the shadow. His hand clamped around her wrist. She froze. "Careful," he murmured. "You wander too freely for someone with borrowed protection." She tried to pull back, but his grip tightened. Then his hand was torn away violently. Kang stood between them in an instant. "You touch her again," Kang said quietly, "and they won't find enough of you to bury." The man laughed once, nervously. "Relax, just admiring what doesn't belong to you." Kang struck him without warning. The crack of bone echoed down the corridor. The man collapsed. Silence fell. For the first time, Ariana truly saw what lived beneath Kang Jun-seok's restraint. Not rage, control. Cold, lethal, absolute control. Security rushed in. The man was dragged away. No questions were asked. Ariana trembled. Kang turned to her. His voice was calm again. "You don't walk alone here." "I didn't ask for a bodyguard," she said shakily. "You asked for protection when you accepted my offer." "That wasn't what I meant." He studied her face. "Then what did you mean?" Her voice cracked. "I meant I wanted to survive." He leaned slightly closer. "So do I." The words hung between them. Strange, heavy, intimate in a way she didn't understand yet. Back in the car later that night, Ariana stared out the window, shaken. "Was that one of your enemies?" she asked. Yes. Why didn't he kill me? Because he wanted you alive long enough to hurt me. Her stomach dropped. Then why bring me there at all? Because now he knows what he wants, Kang replied. And so do I. She turned sharply. What do you want from me? He didn't answer right away. When someone sends you a vulnerability by accident, he finally said, you learn something true about them. I wanted to see if the rest of you matched it. And does it? He glanced at her. More than I expected. The next day, Ariana was taken through another layer of his world. Boardrooms, whispered deals, men who bowed and smiled with teeth that never reached their eyes. She stayed silent as instructed, but she observed everything. One man in particular watched her differently. Younger, sharper, dangerous in a quieter way. His name, she overheard, was Minho. That night, Ariana found her phone on the table beside her bed. Power restored. One message waiting. Unknown contact. You were never supposed to reach him. Her hands went cold. Another message followed instantly. Unknown contact. You were bait, and now the trap is closing. Her door opened slowly behind her. Kang stepped in. You won't survive this world if you start hiding things from me, he said calmly. She turned, holding up the phone with shaking fingers. I think someone's already hunting me. He read the messages. His expression darkened. They already were, he said quietly. The next morning, Ariana overheard raised voices through the penthouse walls. They want the girl, Minho argued. She's the leverage. Kang's reply was cold. She's not a bargaining chip. Everything in your world is a bargaining chip. Ariana backed away silently. The truth was dawning. She hadn't just wandered into danger. She had become its currency. That night, her phone buzzed again. Unknown contact. Run, or you'll die when he does. Her breath hitched. From the balcony across the room, she saw Kang standing alone with the city stretched beneath him like a conquered thing. Powerful, isolated, unreachable. For the first time, Ariana realized something terrifying. She wasn't just afraid of losing her life. She was afraid of losing him. Ariana didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the penthouse felt amplified. The quiet hum of electricity in the walls, the distant movement of guards outside, the faint echo of the city far below. But louder than all of it were the words on her phone. You were bait. The trap is closing. She sat on the edge of the bed with the screen dark in her palm, replaying every moment since that night in her apartment. The unknown admirer, the faceless affection, the way he always avoided showing his world, the way he pushed her to be bold without ever being bold himself. Slowly, painfully, the truth took shape. The man who made her feel seen had likely been watching her long before she ever knew his name. A soft knock came at her door. Not the firm, controlled knock of Kang's men. This one hesitated. She opened it to find Kang standing there alone, jacket removed, sleeves rolled to his forearms. For the first time since she'd met him, he didn't look like a king. He looked tired. You heard us arguing, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The distance between them felt different now. No longer just fear and power, but something rawer, more uncertain. You think Minho is right, she said quietly, that I'm just leverage. Kang studied her face. Minho believes everyone is leverage. And you? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. That silence tells me enough, she whispered. He moved closer, stopping just short of touching her. You think I brought you here for strategy? I think you brought me here because you could, she said. Because you've never been told no. His jaw tightened. You're telling me no right now. Her voice trembled. I'm telling you I'm scared. For a moment, the weight of everything hovered between them. The city, the syndicates, the men who would trade blood for power without blinking. Then he spoke, his voice quieter than she had ever heard it. The night you sent that photo, 3 men were killed because of a deal I made. Her breath caught. I remember looking at their blood on my hands, he continued, and then looking at my phone. And there you were, soft, unaware, alive in a way nothing in my world ever is. She swallowed. So what am I to you? His gaze flickered with something dangerous and honest. A mistake I don't regret. The words hit her harder than any threat ever could. Before she could respond, the sound of raised voices echoed from the hall outside. Kang stepped back instantly, the armor sliding back into place. This conversation isn't safe, he said. Not yet. He left without another word. Minutes later, Mina entered with a tense expression. You're coming with me. Now. Why? Because things are moving too fast, Mina whispered. And you're in the middle of it. They moved through service corridors and down private elevators rarely used. Ariana's pulse hammered with every step. Minho is planning something, Mina said. He's always smiling when he's about to burn something down. Why are you helping me? Ariana asked. Mina hesitated. Because I was you once, a long time ago, and no one warned me. They reached a secured door near the underground parking area. Mina pressed a code. Before it could open, a voice sounded behind them. Running. Already? Minho stood at the end of the corridor, hands in his pockets, a gentle smile on his face that didn't reach his eyes. 2 men flanked him. Mina stiffened. Ariana's blood turned cold. You're afraid of the wrong man? Minho said calmly, looking directly at Ariana. Kang protects what he owns. I remove what threatens him. I'm not a threat, Ariana said, though her voice shook. You are, Minho replied. You're the first thing he's hesitated over in years. Kang's footsteps sounded from the opposite end of the corridor. Minho smiled wider. Perfect timing. The tension snapped like a drawn wire. Kang, Minho said lightly. Your guest was just about to leave. I thought I'd escort her. Kang stopped several steps away. The air between the 2 men felt electric with unspoken history. She doesn't go anywhere without me, Kang said. Then you'll have to choose, Minho replied. Your empire or your weakness. Ariana realized then that this wasn't about jealousy. It was about control. Minho wanted to prove that Kang could still be manipulated through her. Kang, Ariana whispered, let me go. He didn't look at her. No. People will die. They already do, he said coldly. Minho clicked his tongue. You see? He's learning. One of Minho's men stepped forward. Kang's hand moved instantly, and a gun appeared in his grip without Ariana ever seeing where it came from. The sound of it being cocked was deafening. Leave, Kang said. Now. Minho held up a hand to his men slowly. Not tonight, he said, but soon. He looked at Ariana one last time. You should have stayed invisible. Then he turned and walked away. The moment he vanished, Ariana's legs gave out. Kang caught her before she fell. The contact was brief, necessary, but it burned. He released her at once. You can't protect me from all of them, she said weakly. I can protect you from the ones that matter, he replied. Which ones are those? The ones who will use you to reach me. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. And what about you? For the first time, his composure cracked. I don't know how to protect you from me, he admitted. The next 2 days passed in a dangerous quiet. Kang moved constantly, meetings bleeding into nights, his presence in the penthouse growing rare. Ariana stayed inside, watched by guards who weren't there to protect her as much as to contain her. Messages came again on her phone. Unknown contact. He will choose his throne. Unknown contact. You will be the cost. Her fear twisted into anger. The third night, she confronted Kang when he finally returned. "They're right," she said. "You'll sacrifice me if it keeps you in power." He stopped in the doorway. "If I wanted you sacrificed, you'd already be dead." "That's not an answer." He crossed the room in 3 strides. "You think I don't know what's being plotted around you? That I don't see the trap tightening?" "Then let me go," she pleaded. "If I disappear, they have nothing to use." He stared at her in silence. Finally, he said, "If you leave, they'll take you." "Maybe," she said softly. "But if I stay, they'll take everything from you." The words struck him visibly. "I won't be the reason your world burns," she continued, "and I won't live as the reason men die." She stepped back toward the door. He didn't stop her, but his voice followed her. "You walk out of that door," he said, "and I may never find you again." She turned, tears sliding down her face. "Then maybe that's the only way we both survive." She left before he could answer. By the time Kang realized what she'd done, the surveillance had already gone dark, and Ariana was gone. The car that took Ariana away didn't feel like freedom. It felt like a coffin with wheels. The driver never spoke. The windows were dark. The road stretched endlessly forward as Seoul's lights faded behind her. She clutched her phone in her lap, every nerve screaming that this was wrong. But wrong had followed her since the moment she pressed send on that photo. Minutes turned into an hour, then the car slowed. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. No answer. Fear tightened around her lungs. She reached for the door handle. Too late. The car stopped. The doors locked automatically. The driver stepped out, and 2 men appeared from the shadows of an abandoned industrial yard. Ariana understood in that instant. They hadn't come to save her from Kang. They had come to deliver her to his enemies. Her door was yanked open. Strong hands dragged her out. She fought, kicked, screamed. But fear makes noise, not miracles. A hood was thrown over her head. The last thing she heard before darkness swallowed her was the driver's cold voice. He chose his throne. Kang felt it before he saw it. The stillness. The silence was wrong when he returned to the penthouse. Guards too tense. Screens too quiet. The kind of quiet that came after something irreversible. "Where is she?" he asked. No one answered fast enough. He moved like a storm through the suite, straight to the security room. The monitors replayed the footage again and again. Ariana stepping into the car. The wrong car. Minho's car. Kang's hand went through the screen. Glass shattered. "Find her," he said, voice stripped of emotion. "Now." They traced the car through 3 districts before the signal vanished near the docks. Too late. The warehouse where they held her was cold. Damp. The air stank of oil and rust. They chained her to a chair beneath a bare hanging bulb that flickered like a failing heart. Minho stepped into the light with a slow clap. "You see?" he said gently. "You tried to be a hero, and heroes always lose first." Ariana's wrists throbbed. Her throat burned from screaming. "He won't let you live after this." Minho smiled. "He already won't." He crouched in front of her. "Do you know why Kang built his empire so perfectly?" She stayed silent. "Because he never loved anything enough to risk it." Minho continued. Until you. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Minho straightened and gestured to his men. Prepare the message. A camera was placed in front of her. Her heart stopped. This isn't about killing you, Minho said calmly. This is about breaking him. The video was sent within minutes. Kang received it standing in the middle of a boardroom filled with men who controlled millions in illegal trade. Ariana's bruised face filled the screen. Minho's voice followed. You have 2 hours. Surrender your docs and disappear, or she does. The room went deathly still. Every man waited for Kang to react. He closed his eyes. Then he stood. Call every division, he said quietly. Tonight, we end this. The first explosion hit at 2:14 a.m., then the second, then the third. Kang didn't negotiate. He erased. His men tore through Minho's operations across the city with surgical precision. Nightclubs burned. Warehouses fell. Supply lines vanished. The city itself seemed to hold its breath. Minho watched the feeds in growing disbelief. He's choosing her, one of his men whispered. Minho laughed once, hollowly. Then he's already lost. Back in the warehouse, Ariana fought the chains until her wrists bled. You don't understand him, she whispered to the shadows. He won't stop. The guards shifted uneasily. They all heard the distant sirens. Gunfire cracked outside, then closer, then right at the door. The explosion blew the entrance inward with such force the walls shook. Gunfire erupted. Men screamed. The chains snapped as the bullet hit the lock. Ariana fell forward onto the concrete, coughing, shaking. Boots rushed toward her. Through the smoke and chaos, one man moved with terrifying calm. Kang. He lifted her into his arms without a word. Minho appeared on the balcony above them, weapon trained. You burned your empire for her, Minho shouted. What does that make you now? Kang looked up slowly. It makes me free. The shot rang out. Minho fell backward into darkness. Silence followed. Kang carried Ariana out through fire and debris until fresh air hit her lungs. She clung to him weakly, sobbing. You came, she whispered. There was no other choice, he said. At dawn, the city woke to a new rumor. Kang Jun-seok's empire had fractured. Markets collapsed, power shifted, and for the first time in years, the Mafia king had lost his crown. Ariana woke in a hospital room with the soft beep of machines beside her. Sunlight filtered through white curtains. Kang sat in the chair beside her bed. You should have let me go, she whispered. He shook his head. You were never something to lose. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. And now? He hesitated. Now my world is hunting me. She closed her eyes. Then you should leave, before I become your weakness again. He reached for her hand this time, gently. I don't want to be the man I was before you. The words felt more dangerous than any threat. Outside the hospital room, guards stirred. Inside it, 2 people sat in the wreckage of power and survival. Neither knew what the next sunrise would bring, but both knew one truth now. The game was no longer about control. It was about choice. The city turned against Kang Jun-seok quietly. No celebrations, no headlines screaming his fall, just locked doors, accounts frozen overnight. Calls that once rang answered now met silence. By the 3rd day after the warehouse, every loyal territory he still held was under siege from men who once feared him. Power hates weakness, and loving Ariana had made him vulnerable. Ariana felt the shift before he ever told her. The guards outside her hospital room doubled. Nurses whispered. Even the air felt cautious. Kang visited at night now. Always alone, always briefly. On the 4th night, she finally said what they were both avoiding. You're running out of time. He didn't deny it. They're closing in. Yes. And you're still here. He took a slow breath. Because I promised I wouldn't vanish without choosing. She studied his face in the dim light. The man who once owned the city now looked hunted. Not afraid, alert, focused, but stripped of illusion. What are you going to do? She asked. I'll dismantle what's left before they take it from me. And after? Silence. That answer scared her more than any gun ever had. 2 nights later, the hospital lost power for exactly 7 seconds. That was all it took. The alarms screamed back to life. The guards were already down. Ariana's heart slammed into her throat as the door burst open and unfamiliar men flooded in. She barely had time to scream before arms seized her again. The same hood, the same cold panic. This time, there was no Minho. This time, there would be no ransom. Because Kang's enemies had learned from his mercy. They didn't want to break him. They wanted to erase him. And Ariana was the key. Kang felt it the instant the city went quiet again. A silence too sudden, too deliberate. His phone rang once. A voice he didn't recognize said calmly, "You burn everything you touched, and then we burn what you love." The call ended. Kang didn't rage. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He emptied every last resource he had left. Not an empire, a war chest. What followed didn't feel like a war. It felt like a countdown. Ariana was taken to an abandoned high-rise at the edge of the harbor, where the city lights died into water. She was bound, but not beaten. Treated not as prey, but as leverage too valuable to waste. "Why not just kill me?" she asked the man guarding her. He didn't look at her. "Because your death would make him dangerous again." The truth hit her like ice. They didn't fear Kang as a man. They feared him as a man with nothing to lose. By dawn, Kang stood alone beneath the building with one final firearm and a single comms line still open. Every other ally was gone. Every road burned. A voice crackled into his ear. "You climb alone, or she falls." He looked up at the endless staircase rising into shadow, and climbed. Floor by floor, blood followed him. Not in waves, in quiet, calculated. Each shot mattered now. Each step was a cost. By the time he reached the top floor, he was bleeding from 3 places and breathing through pain that should have dropped him hours ago. Ariana saw him through the glass doorway, alive, walking, still coming. Her chest broke open with relief and terror all at once. The final man holding her turned slowly. "You really gave up everything for her," the man said. "Tell me, was she worth your crown?" Kang didn't answer. He didn't need to. The shot ended the question. Ariana collapsed into his arms as the last gun hit the floor. He held her tightly for 1 heartbeat, then another. "You came?" she whispered. "I always would," he said. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. This time, they weren't his. They had nothing left to chase. By sunrise, Kang Junseok was officially finished. No empire, no safe houses, no loyal territories. Only a man with blood on his hands and a woman alive in his arms. They disappeared that same morning. No witnesses, no trail. The city swallowed their names. Months passed in silence. No guards, no walls, no shadows following behind. Ariana learned what it felt like to breathe without fear, to wake without alarms, to exist without being hunted for what she meant to someone else. Kang learned what it felt like to be ordinary. He wasn't good at it, but he tried. They lived near the water, where mornings were loud with gulls and quiet with peace. He fixed boats for cash. She worked in a cafe that smelled of coffee and sugar and normal conversation. No one bowed. No one feared, and that terrified him more than any war ever had. One evening, Ariana found him standing alone on the shore, staring at the dark horizon. "You're thinking about going back," she said quietly. "Yes." She didn't stop him. She stepped beside him instead. "And you won't," she said. He exhaled slowly. "I don't know how to be this man." "You're learning," she said. "That's all anyone ever does." He turned to her. "You could have walked away." "So could you." Silence stretched between them. Then he said the words she'd never expected to hear from a man who once ruled a city with terror. "Choose me without fear." She looked into his eyes. Not the king, not the killer, not the myth, just the man. "I already did," she said. He kissed her then, not with hunger, with relief, with surrender, with the quiet gravity of two lives that almost burned each other down and somehow survived the fire. And if Ariana's story moved you, if you felt the fear, the power, the sacrifice, and the choice, take just a second right now to tap, like, subscribe, and share. Comment what you think really happens after the camera fades to black. Because some love stories aren't about forever. They're about surviving the moment that changes everything. The city would never speak their names again. But somewhere between the water and the sky, two people who were never meant to meet had rewritten each other's fate. Not with power, not with violence, but with choice.